Alright guys, this week we're going to look at chapter 12. We're going to start with lesson 1, but we're going to do it in two parts. So we're just going to read pages 516 to 522. Abiotic and biotic factors. Living things and non-living factors such as air, water, sunlight, and soil interact in Earth's ecosystems. So what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem consists of living things called organisms and the physical place they live. There are many types of ecosystems on Earth. You have coral reefs, woodlands, and ponds. The patch of leaves shown in Figure 1 may not seem like an ecosystem, but if you look closely, you may find insects eating the plants or using them for shelter. Robins and other birds may be searching for earthworms and other foods. Organisms in an ecosystem interact with each other as well as with non-living parts of their environment. Abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are the non-living parts of an ecosystem. Suppose you want to grow a plant in your classroom. You could plant a seed in a pot of damp soil and place the pot on a sunny windowsill. What are the factors affecting this plant? Soil, water, and energy from the sun are some of the abiotic factors that help control the growth of green plants. The sun. Most life on Earth depends on energy from the sun, an important abiotic factor. Green plants use energy from the sun to make food. Other animals eat those green plants. Still, other animals eat those animals. Most organisms depend on green plants. The sun's energy also controls many other abiotic factors in the environment. Recall from chapter 9 that areas of Earth receive different amounts of radiation from the sun because the Earth's surface is curved. Figure 2 shows how rays of sunlight hit the Earth at a low angle at the equator. This causes the land areas along the equator to be among the warmest places on Earth, and life is abundant. The poles are colder because the sun's rays hit Earth at an angle, spreading the heat. There are fewer organisms at the poles due to the harsher climate. Temperature. Without the sun, Earth would be a frozen wasteland. The sun's energy warms Earth and makes it possible for humans and other organisms to survive. The uneven warming of Earth's surface from the sun's rays cause great temperature differences. The sun influences temperature, an abiotic factor in ecosystems. Figure 3 shows the temperatures of Earth's oceans. Temperature is one of the abiotic factors that affects plant growth. Plants grow best in regions that are moderate, not too cold and not too hot. Plants also grow well when the temperature does not change greatly. This means that daily and seasonal temperatures are consistent. Because there are more plants, regions with constant warm temperatures support the greatest number of living things. Why do you think this is the case? Animal life is dependent on green plants. More types of plants and animals can live in areas where the temperatures are consistent. This explains why many more species live in tropical rainforests than in deserts or polar regions. Climate. The sun influences climate, another abiotic factor. When you need to decide what to wear each morning, perhaps you start by checking the weather forecast. In any area, the weather can change from day to day. Climate is a pattern of weather that occurs in an area over many years. You learned in chapter 11 that the climate does not change from day to day, so you do not need to check a climate forecast to decide whether to take your raincoat along when you head out for the day. Earth's climate patterns are controlled by the temperature differences between the equator and the poles. This difference creates winds and ocean currents that affect climate. Scientists average temperature, precipitation, humidity, and the number of days of sunshine to determine an area's climate. For example, Figure 4 shows zones of average temperature in the United States during the coldest time of the year. Farmers and gardeners use these zones to decide what kinds of plants to grow in their part of the country. The water cycle. Water is an important abiotic factor to almost all life on Earth. Water helps organisms absorb nutrients and is important in ridding organisms of waste. More organisms can survive in places with plenty of water. What happens if you hang damp laundry outside on a sunny day? Heat energy from the sun evaporates water from the clothes. Water also evaporates from rain-soaked highways, damp leaves in a forest, and the surfaces of lakes and oceans. Water that evaporates enters the atmosphere. Figure 5 shows how water in the atmosphere condenses to form clouds. Water falls from clouds back to Earth as rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Some of this water flows over land into streams and rivers. Some soaks into the ground. Plants need this water to grow. They take up water through their roots and release it from their leaves. Animals play a part in the water cycle too. They drink water and excrete its waste. Extra water in the soil may drain downward and become groundwater. Soil. Earlier you read how to grow a plant. One of the things you would need is a pot filled with soil. This abiotic factor might seem simple, but soils are not all the same. For one thing, they contain different minerals, such as limestone or quartz. These minerals affect the chemistry of the soil, such as the acidity or alkalinity. Plants do not grow well if the soil is too acidic or too alkaline. Farmers and gardeners also measure the concentrations of important plant nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Dead plants and animal decay in soil, forming a dark-colored material that makes nutrients available to plants called humus. As you can see in Figure 6, humus lies in a thin layer of the soil surface. As it slowly breaks down, the organic matter in humus helps plants grow. Humus also supports plant growth by holding water in the soil. Like a sponge, it soaks up water and keeps soil moist. In nature, the regions that support the most plant growth have soils that are rich in humus. Air. Like the sun, air is also an important abiotic factor. Humans and many other organisms can only survive in places where air contains enough oxygen. Many organisms use oxygen to help their cells release energy. Most organisms that use oxygen can only survive for 5 minutes without it before cells begin to die. At higher elevations, the mountain air contains less oxygen. Mountain climbers carry oxygen shakes to help them breathe. Some organisms can use less oxygen than can others. The air of a particular ecosystem determines the organisms that will live there. Exchanging gases. Some organisms, like humans, take oxygen from the air and release carbon dioxide. Other organisms do the opposite. Plants and some other organisms take in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. Figure 7 shows the exchange of oxygen in the environment. The grasses in the ecosystem take in the carbon dioxide and release oxygen into the air. The lion takes in this oxygen and releases carbon dioxide for the grasses to take in. Green plants help keep these gases in balance. Air pollution. Some human activities can pollute the air. Air pollution is a contamination of the air by harmful substances. Much of the pollution comes from vehicles and manufacturing. Organisms can have difficulty surviving in contaminated air. In humans, this can cause irritation in the respiratory system. It can also cause more serious problems, such as certain types of cancer. For wildlife, the pollution collects in the soil and water. This affects the place where an organism lives. It can also affect food supply. So what can you do to help reduce pollution? Small changes such as turning off electrical appliances when not in use are helpful. Also, your family can walk, ride a bike, or take public transportation instead of driving. You can reduce the number of items you use, reuse items again, and recycle everyday items. The fewer new items you use means the less items that have to be manufactured. Alright guys, I know that was a lot of information, but you're going to open up your science packet now and you're going to work on the first couple questions. You won't have to do all of lesson 1 because you will listen to lesson 2 or part 2 of lesson 1 tomorrow.